Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Qualified Podcast. With me today is Jacques Bastien with his business, Chery Maids. Jacques, thank you so much for taking the time out today and hopping on the interview with me. I know you are a big advocate and big proponent in the Booking Koala group, always giving videos and, trying to help out the entire
Yeah,
community.
yeah.
So we appreciate that. And again, thank you for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Background. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up? Give us all the good stuff.
Yeah. Born in Haiti 35 years ago, actually. Came to America when I was 10. I lived in New York, lived there for um, from 10 to 18. And then I went to upstate New York to college. That's when I met my wife. That's when I started getting into entrepreneurship. That's when I started a few different businesses, marketing businesses. At one point, I was even cutting hair. So a bunch of different entrepreneurial endeavors in my college years. Definitely a moment for exploration. Then upon graduation, my wife and I decided to go into business together, and we started a marketing agency. And through that agency, we were essentially helping different types of businesses, from home services to Fortune 500 company, just help them market themselves and reach their customers. And we did that. We have been doing that ever since, almost 15 years now. And fast forward to today, we have then since we've taken what we've learned from doing for other customers, and we've became our own customers. And so we're doing marketing to get our own customers for our own different businesses, which includes cleaning, and we also do publishing for children's book and a few other things like that.
Wow. Awesome. Power couple. Love that. So you mentioned Haiti, came at
Mhm.
10. Have you been back to Haiti since? What would you say is the best thing about Haiti in your eyes?
Yeah. So, I mean, being from Haiti or from the Caribbeans in general, you naturally just have a go-getter, hustler mentality. My wife, she's from Jamaica. So similarly, I see a lot from my family background and hers. Those are the similarities we have. We're not afraid to work. We're not afraid to do double or triple work. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing I took away from just my environment. Haven't been back to Haiti as often as I would want it to. And things aren't that great over there right now, but I'm hoping and hopeful that the future will look different. But definitely Haiti being in part of my blood has just instilled that kind of hustle drive within our family.
So you mentioned, that hustler mentality from being in the Caribbean. When you were a kid, did you know that you wanted to be an entrepreneur or did you have other aspirations, whether it be, in sports or academics or something else?
Yeah, great question. I think I've always been a nerd since I was younger. It's cool to be a nerd now, but back then it
Absolutely.
wasn't as cool. Uh, so, you know, um, but I think from back then, I've always been really resourceful, and I've always been able to turn something to money. Thinking back in high school, even I was selling beats that I was making on what was that tool, Fruity Loops, like making beats. I wasn't a musician, I wasn't an artist. It's just I saw somebody, people were paying for it, and I thought it was a cool thing to learn. And as I started learning, I assume I reached a point of learning where I was actually better than some of those guys. And so I started charging for it. And so I've charged for a lot of things in my life. Made money from a lot of things, even if it only lasted a month. So I think that's a skill that was innately in me, just being able to, one, go in and learning something brand new, and then get obsessed about it enough to learn it enough to become a practitioner or a expert of sorts, and then eventually turn it into some sort of business. And so a lot of my business endeavors or different businesses I've gotten into, some of them are not as traditional. They're not like, they don't go together even, but they all were born out of my own interest in learning. And then that eventually led to me turning them into a business. So yeah, that's what I would say.
And is there anybody in your family that is a business owner, whether it's somebody close, like mom or pop, sibling, or a little bit distant, uncle, aunt, something like that?
Yeah, I would say my mother, she passed away when I was 14. When she was alive, and also what I've learned about her over the last couple years, learning from uncles and things, she was extremely entrepreneurial. She had a day job at an airport, but then she had a chicken spot and this thing, and she had a hair braiding salon that she owned, all in Haiti with very limited resources. So I think she always had that entrepreneurial thinking where the idea of, yeah, I can make $100 if I do it by myself, but I can make 40 if I pay somebody else to do it for me. And then that same 40, I can do that 10 times and make 400. So I think I can see in her past, she's always had that in her. And these are not things I heard from her, firsthand. This is what I'm learning from uncles, from other folks. But I would say she, that was probably innately in her blood, and that got passed down to me, and hopefully gets passed down to my daughter.
And you mentioned college where you met your wife. Do you have a degree in business or is it in something else?
Yeah, I have a degree in information science with a business minor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you believe that what you learned for in your business minor, do you believe that that's helpful in your day-to-day businesses that you run with your wife? Or do you think that you could have learned it, done everything you've done without that minor?
So this is what I would say, right? I would never talk negative of college. I think college was a great experience. My best friends, all of them, I met in college, and my number one best friend, my wife, I met in college, right? And so the experience, you kind of get out of it what you want. And after I graduated, I went on to teach college for 11 years. I just stopped teaching in May of 2025. So I was teaching at the same university, teaching teaching mobile app design. So I'm a fan of college. I will also say at the same time, a lot of the things that I learned were from YouTube University, right? They were from Hustle University, where you just kind of put it out there and then you learn and you make mistakes and you tweak and you fix. So I would probably say, I think I would have been able to do the same thing without college for sure. But there are a lot of connections and resources that helped me get where I am that I met in college.
I love that answer. I am a college dropout. I went to school for business and one day I just kind of had a realization. I'm like, none of my professors ever started a business or
Mm,
were even part of a business, except my law professor. Obviously, he needed a law degree to do law. And I'm like, if I'm paying $60,000 a year to go to college, and that's not even including room and board, and I'm not learning from somebody who did this before, why am I here?
right. Yeah.
So, and again, I'm not one to knock college because I have met people in college that I'm still friends with now. And my wife, I met when she was in college. I already dropped out, but we're the same with our daughter. We're going to push college, not for you need the degree, it's you need the experience. It's go and have the memories, go meet the people. Obviously, go and take your classes seriously and choose something that you love, but don't don't automatically fall into the trap that it's not going to be for you, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, college right now is also a very big topic in the world because of, especially in the States, how it's managed and run. And it's a big thing.
If you think about it, the access to education is, especially like, there was YouTube, and then YouTube kind of slowly faded away while people moved to Instagram and all the other social platforms. And then over the last couple of years, folks have come back to YouTube with high quality podcast level cameras, spilling business tips and secrets and things that they probably use to work with Fortune 100 companies, and just sharing them on YouTube. And so information is so accessible now. And then once you add the AIs and stuff to it, it really makes you wonder, is the college worth it for the information or the other stuff? And so I agree with you 100%. The info is available. So it's really just about, do you want to instill the other stuff in your kids? Independence, being away from home, those kinds of things. Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. Going into your leadership style, you clearly have multiple businesses now and in the past. Has your leadership style always been the same? Has it evolved? What is it, would you say today? What type of leadership style do you have?
Yeah, I would say my leadership style is probably like a big brother. And it's something I've thought about because most of my life I've played that role. As I mentioned, my mother passed away when we were younger. And as a result, I kind of had to step up as the older brother in the household. And so at one point I was, braiding my sister's hair, and I was, taking them to school, and we're talking about 14, 15 years old. Right. So, and early it instilled in me that, no matter how young you are, you can step up to the plate and do what you need to do. I'm naturally a shy person, naturally very timid, naturally, um, I'm not humble by like intentionality. I just don't know how to be the other side, right? So, and I'm grateful for my parents or my DNA or whatever that got me like that, because I know, it's not like I chose to be the way I am, but it does help me in leadership, right? Because I'm not the kind of leader that, like, I'm one of those people that fire slow. Guru will tell you fire fast, right? I'm that guy. I'm the kind of person who people will take advantage of, because I can't sleep at night if I make a decision that is solely for me versus thinking of the whole piece. Our clients, our team members, etc. And so there are positives and negatives to it. And I spent a long time as an entrepreneur fighting this thought of like, I'll never make it because the person I am doesn't fit what I see entrepreneurs on TV or what have you. But over time, I just learned to embrace it. And I even have a book that I started writing. I kind of took a big pause on it, but it's called The Kindness Strategy. And it's this idea that you can win at life, business, and relationships by just simply being kind. And so whatever alternative that we've been told, whatever alternative that we think we need to do, right? Be that person. We just don't. Like I can honestly say to this day, I've been married for 11 years. I've never once raised my voice on my wife. I've never raised a voice at a team member, never raised my voice on my daughter. And it's not that I'm being a pushover, right? I can still communicate and get my words across and get my feelings across in different ways. And so I kind of live my life by that. And I've learned to embrace my natural like humility, and I just bring that into business. And so as a result, it does lead to us building a really what feels like a safe environment, right? Where team members feel like family and they feel appreciated, and et cetera. And yeah, maybe, can one argue that as a result, there are people we should have let go sooner, or we could have brought in more sharks or get closed more? Of course. But at the end of the day, if, you have a successful business, but you can't sleep at night because your values are all out of whack, is it even worth it?
It's super powerful that you mentioned the the way you can carry yourself and, not have to raise your voice, because communicating is the number one thing any entrepreneur should learn.
For sure.
Gurus will teach you it's sales or it's close the deal, whatever it may be. That's wrong. That's all crap. It's communicating and communicating effectively. You don't have to be sneaky with your words. You don't have to lie. You don't have to get angry. It's just stay calm and get your point across. And if it just doesn't match up with the other person, then at that point it's not in the cards, right?
Yeah, you're
And
100% right.
you keeping a level head the entire time is so much more beneficial to you than anybody else.
Hmm.
And I gotta say, my wife and I get in arguments. I never like to raise my voice. If I raise my voice, it's never at her. I'll
Hmm.
turn and just like speak loudly, but then I come back. We never walk away from an argument. We always close it at we we just close it there. Have never gone to bed. We've been together 7 years, married almost two. Never once gone to bed angry. Every uh,
I
argument
love
we've
that.
had, we
Yeah.
close it there. We hug and we don't let go. And we make sure that we're in a safe space, because if I can't communicate with her, she can't communicate with me. Everything's off. Our daughter's
That's
going to
right.
feel it in the air, and it tumbles. And then the
Yeah, for
next
sure.
day, you have a bad day. She has a bad day. You might go off on a client, or I might go off on a client. She might go off on somebody. And we don't like to do it that way. So we try and live that every single day.
Yeah. And you said you guys been married 2 years?
Almost two. October, first week of October is going to be our second anniversary, but we've been together
Beautiful.
7. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. That's beautiful, man.
Thank you. So, in relation to your leadership style, being big brother, I'd assume positive company culture is easy to come by when everybody feels like family and they can talk to you and communication is open. Would you agree?
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
And on the flip side of that, how do you handle negativity coming in then when something, whether it's with an employee or a customer, how are you handling that, bringing into the culture aspect?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, we used to run an agency that we no longer run. We used to run a agency called Boogie, which was a social media agency. And I remember at the time we had an office in Albany, New York. This was Troy, New York. It's a suburb outside of Albany. And we had two satellite offices, one in Brooklyn and one in LA at the time. This was maybe 2017 or 2018, one of those two. But we had a client that came in at the time, and he was our biggest client at the time. And biggest, I'm referring to the contract was for 100 grand for a year. So that's about 8,000 a month or so to manage their social media and digital presence. At that time, we've had 5,000 a month clients. We've had 4,000 even, but we never had a annual commitment, basically spending 100K. And so we got this client, closed the job, everything was good. And we were supposed to be getting our first payment in about 2 weeks because they were raising money, and they raised the money, but there was some moment for the cash to come. And it ended up taking about a month for us to get our first paycheck. And within that month, though, we in a weird way got to feel out what it was like working with that client, right? And so we worked with this client for a month. I even brought on another team member just to help us service that client. And he was extremely happy with the work we're doing, but just his personality, the founder, I don't remember his name anymore. I probably wouldn't. Anyways, it's been a while. It's been, I think, almost 10 years now. But the person that he was, right, he was the kind of person that doesn't respect boundaries, calling team members on their cell phones at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., like, hey, I just noticed this. Can you change it like that? And the moment for me was one of my team members came into me. We came to the office and she said, like, as a joke, it was like a Friday. We do like a lunch thing. We order lunch every Friday. And she was just making a joke. She was like, oh, yeah, I had a dream about the client last night. And she positioned as a bad dream. Like, yeah, he called me to talk about deadlines and stuff. But, thank God it was just a dream. And it was just a moment and it passed. But I already knew at the moment what I needed to do, just because we didn't get into this thing to have negative dreams about our clients. And we try really hard on the hiring side, not to bring in jerks in our companies. But then it's like this jerk, whatever, call him. It's like a backdoor entry. We never thought about it would come like that from a client. And so I called the gentleman after that lunch and just told him, hey, I appreciate taking a chance on us, et cetera, et cetera. But we're going to have to end the relationship. And, you'd have to pay us for the work we've done. We'll give you all the files. You can take it and continue from there. And, he was angry, he was upset, cursed, whatever. We didn't have any money from him. So it's not like we were, so we just let him go. Fast forward, that moment, because we brought on some folks and we incurred the initial costs, led to a decline within the company that would eventually lead to us closing the shop later on, a couple months later, right? But as I think about it, even when I was going through it, it's just not something if I had to do it again, I wouldn't change anything about it. But it's just because, again, what's the point? Like, I might as well go get a job. If I'm coming to work, I'm seeing my team, people are unhappy, there's nothing wrong with jobs, and I want to clarify that. But if I'm going to try to build this thing where I get to work for myself and work with people I like, and we're unhappy, we're on edge because this person calls or texts us, and it's like, oh my God, what is it now? It's just not worth it, right? And so, to answer the question in a very long way, when we're thinking about bringing folks on, we're looking at that. We're looking for, 9 times out of 10 is this just a kind person. And then on the client side, it's also something we look for. And now that we're in the cleaning business, prior to this, most of our businesses were B2B. So we're dealing with team members and businesses where it's a bit less emotions, more by the book. Here's the budget, like it or not, whatever. But in this case, we're dealing with individuals, or what I call RPs, regular people. And so emotions and things, and maybe if you have a price that they don't like, they may curse you out or something like that. We just don't stand for that. Like, it's not that serious. Like, literally, if the person's coming in and even via the initial conversation, it just feels hard just to close a simple $200 to $300 clean. Like, it's okay. Somebody else will serve you, Mr. or Miss. It's just not worth it. So that's what we try to go by. And I tell my team all the time, I will never be mad. If you can make a gut decision, like, this doesn't feel right, why are you speaking with the lead? It just doesn't feel right. Like, it feels like it's going to be a difficult individual, or they're coming, because, some of my team members, they have accents. I was born in Haiti. I have an accent, depends on who's listening. And so that's important to me. If somebody's treating somebody differently because of how they sound, that's not the kind of client we want to work with.
And that's, as sad as it is, it shouldn't be like that, but it's especially prevalent in the RPs, like you mentioned, when they're booking services. They expect the highest quality for the lowest price. Not everybody, but when it is that type of person, they're usually the cheapest one, will
Yeah.
argue everything. Even after the service is done, they're going to hit you in a week and be like, they missed this, 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 and this, even though you might have done a walkthrough and had pictures that it was all done. And now they're just trying to get their money back. And being a business owner, which I assume you're going to just cut off ties right there and just be like, okay, appreciate your business. This doesn't work for us anymore. I'm sure there's another company that's more suitable for you.
Exactly.
And no matter what service it is, pressure washing, dog walking, cleaning, it's all the same.
Mhm.
Everyone's going to be like that. There are going to be people who are happy to pay your price because of the service you offer, or even just because you're a good, kind person. And then there are the others who will argue everything.
Yeah. And I know it's not personal. People have bad days, and, I get that. Like, no, I get it. But it's not on me or my team. Like, I got thick skin. You could say whatever to me. What's that book called? How to Win Friends and Influence People. I love that book. I read it, probably like read it every 2 years, just because I know how to, like, once something comes, I can take it, turn it around, and make you leave the phone call happy. And you came to curse me out and you left in a good mood. But it's when it starts affecting my team members. This goes back to the big brother thing, right? Like my siblings, I'm extra protective of them, right? And so for me, I could take it. It's not a big deal. But when you start dealing with, my peoples, that's when I'm like, all right, we gotta do some things. We gotta make some decisions. So yeah.
Right. Well, you mentioned family. You work with your wife. There's work and there's home.
hmm
So, how do you guys maintain that healthy work life balance?
Yeah. So let me back there a little bit. So we got married in what are we in 2020? We're in 2025 now. So we got married 2014. So we 11 years this year. We started working together in 2013. So we've been working together like full time, meaning beforehand she was helping me out. She had a job and she was helping me, but us doing the same thing for about 12, I think that's the math, 12 years, 2013 to now. And it's probably I don't think I could imagine life without it. Now, I know that's probably in popular opinion for a lot of folks, right? Because and I get it, like you're having that amount of exposure with your person, no matter how much you love each other, it just speeds up the amount of potential things you can argue about or go with. But we just, and we did that in the early years. We had this stuff where maybe maybe I'm as a boss, like my tone was a certain way, right? And so, but as a husband, you don't expect that, and so there's that, like, you know what I mean?
When
But
to turn it off?
right, and
Yeah.
so, or like maybe I make a comment as a I don't the term boss sounds weird, but as whatever, as your business person, whatever your partner call it, like when if I make a comment there, but you hear it as a wife, right, or the reverse.
Right.
That we had some of those issues, but that was really really early on. I think over the years we've kind of learned that we know how we are and who we are. We know the best way to communicate with each other. We know what of the business we both kind of gravitate towards and we kind of go there. So believe even though we work still, to this day work full time together and all the businesses we run them, we have different parts of the business or different business functions that we oversee that, one, we sometimes we barely see each other throughout the day. We live in the same house, work in the same house, right? But it's, we still end up missing each other. And so one, there's definitely I don't have that feeling of like, oh man, I see you too much. I definitely miss her when it's time to become, go back to husband and wives again. But also too, just like having somebody there. It's, the like I'll say my wife naturally is not an entrepreneur. She will never tell you she is. She doesn't want to be. She don't want to be known. She don't want to be nowhere. For me, the visionary part of our situation is generally me. So I'm the one coming with like, hey, got a new idea. We should. She's just supportive. Yeah, I'll do it. Just tell me what you need me to do, right? And so there was a point back in the day where I used to expect her to come up with visions too and come up with ideas. Like, but that's just not her. Innately, that's just not her. And so learning the different things that is her and isn't her over the years, and also for her learning the things that are me and that aren't me, has helped us make this dynamic work so much where now it's beautiful. And we can, work from home. We can have dates throughout the day sometimes. Daughter goes to school. We go have breakfast. There is a bit of freedom built just within it alone of just having your person work with you, because there are folks that has even more successes than us because one working at the company, the other one work at a particular job. They themselves may not have time to spend together. And by the time she comes home, it's time to be parents of the kids, the homework, the dinners, the whatever. Yeah, I love this dynamic and I want to change it for anything.
It's beautiful to have that and to work under the same roof. There are those challenges, but the benefits outweigh it. Like you said, your daughter goes to school, you guys go grab a quick breakfast, can decompress before
Mhm.
meetings or whatever, what have you that day. And it really is something special. How do you guys have the same motivation and drive towards your aspirations? I know you mentioned about your wife not admitting to being entrepreneurial, not wanting to be known and famous. You're obviously okay being entrepreneurial and saying you're an entrepreneur. I don't know if you necessarily want to become huge and famous, but do you guys have the same drive and motivation and short-term goals, long-term goals even?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for sure our values are aligned in I think what we want out of life, right? And I think the method is this is the current method we're running through now. Maybe in the future there'll be a different method, but what we want out of life, I think we're in sync about that. Whether it is, we're not necessarily people who gauge our happiness on like how much things we have. And so while we do own a house, and at one point we owned 4 houses when we were trying real estate investing, it didn't really matter as much to us because we knew that home is like where your people are, right? So for us, I think ideally, if you were to ask the both of us, like, what is ideal life, right? It's for her if she can, work optionally if she wants to, right? If she can read her books throughout the time. We're in heavy parent mode right now. We have a 6-year-old, so make sure our daughter grows up feeling loved, feeling respected. I had a conversation with a friend the other day, and I was telling him that right now in life, I'm not optimizing for generational wealth, right? Which I know is somewhat unpopular opinion because a lot of people are saying, no, you gotta. But I know a couple of friends who they are optimizing for generational wealth, and as a result, it's work, work, work 24/7. It's how much can I put in, how much more can I save so I can, right? And so as for me, I'm optimized for being present. And so there's a couple guys that reach out to me and say, hey, man, let's get on a call. I said, as long as before 3 p.m. Because that's when I'm on husband and daddy mode. And I'm not really, no one's really touching that. Right. So my wife and I, we have different activities. My daughter has gymnastics. She has dance. She has swim. She has all these different things. And we both take turn, right? We say, you do this, I'll do this. But still, we both end up going to both, although it's my thing and her thing. Right. And so I think I'm extremely fortunate that my family as a whole, us three, but then also our extended family, we enjoy each other's companies. And so any opportunities we get to spend time together, we take it. And so right now, I'm optimizing for being present. And so there are things I'm saying no to. There are opportunities that would be bigger that would allow me to make significantly more money, but I wouldn't be present, which is the most important thing to me now. So I think right now, as parents, our main goal is to be present, be able to give our daughter what she needs, us being mentally clear. And so we're in therapy just to make sure that we're dealing with our stuff so that we're not, you know what I mean? So we optimize for the same exact things. And then as a long-term goal, right? Obviously we, we acknowledge the world we live in, right? You can't just be a starving artist or starving anything and think you're going to make it. So the world we live in is the world we live in. So we're not going to act like it's not the case, but our method of gaining wealth, I think the important thing to us is as long as we're not excuse me, screwing anybody over, as long as we're able to go to bed at night knowing that the decisions we made are the right decisions, that's what that matters. And that applies whether it was a job or whether it was us being an entrepreneurship or investing or what have you. As long as we are living by our values, I think we're good. And we both have similar values when it comes to those kinds of things.
I love everything about that. Me and my wife are so similar in that regard. Our number one is our 6-month-old. And I've been going to therapy for over a year and a half. Your mind is the biggest muscle in your body.
For
You're
sure.
going to the gym and you're working out, you're eating right. Why not take the time to decompress mentally and talk to somebody who's not necessarily a friend? You can talk to your friends about certain things. They might not align, but just somebody who's just going to sit there and is essentially paid to listen to you
Yeah.
speak and help you get through things, because unfortunately the world we are in currently, the climate, no matter where you are with politics, without politics, it's it's a messy place,
For sure.
especially with tech and it being absolutely everywhere. I mean, the last several years, my nephews aren't even getting books in middle school. They're getting a laptop.
Wow.
And you can't even avoid technology at school now. So that's how me and my wife are. It's what can we do the best for our 6-month-old, be as present as possible. We too have opportunities to do more, but that could be on hold. That can be later. First, the foundation is home
Hmm.
and with our baby girl. And if you've got tips on how to treat teething at 6 months old, I'll take that because I didn't sleep a wink last night.
So, man, I think the tip is the same thing like a life. You just got to go through it.
Yeah.
Like, just believe that it's gonna get better over time. But that's beautiful. See, you said 6 months.
6 months. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah, 6 months. Mine is 6 years now. And when she was 6 months, I couldn't even imagine her being 6 years. Now she's 6, and yeah, that's crazy. That's beautiful though.
My wife, she's a NICU nurse and she works nights. And I picked her up from work this morning and she's like, I'm planning her birthday party. I'm like, that's in 6 months. I'm
Yeah,
like, I feel like she was just born and we brought her from the hospital a couple weeks ago. Like, and now you're already talking about making crafts for her first birthday. I'm like, time needs to slow down.
yeah. I was. You mind if I ask you? I don't know if it's personal, but do you guys plan on having more kids?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I come from just a family with another sibling. I have an older sister. My wife is an older sister and has a younger brother. So, and my parents divorced at a very young age. So I was just raised by my mother with my sister and didn't my dad for years. So I'm like, I told initially I told my wife I want five. I want point guard through center. I want a starting five
Yeah,
and
yeah,
potentially a bench player. Now that there's been 6 months of, time
yeah.
with my little one, I'm like, okay, we'll go three. Three is the sweet spot. And she agrees. So yeah. How about you guys yourself? Is that
Yeah, we're not sure. We it's one of those like there's the is it too late, meaning starting over. There's the but people start over all the time. It's not an issue. But yeah, we're not entirely sure. But I'm always curious to ask. There's not a right or wrong answer, right? Everybody, and there even for the folks that choose not to have children, it's whatever works best for your relationship and your dynamics. I was just curious. So yeah, the I would say the thing that we are thinking about, I should say, is after Dahlia, that's my daughter's name, Dahlia. After she
beautiful?
maybe turned around two or so, we had like a conversation with ourselves and said, okay, we want to figure out how do we get our self back? Because we were parents this whole time. We want to kind of get back to self. So we started doing some things. My wife started going through therapy was one of those things. I started playing basketball, probably play like 4 times a week now. She does Pilates. And so we're also doing a lot of things to optimize for us being individuals, not just parents. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about how do we fit another kid? We for sure have the time to have another child, but how do we fit another child within this new form of like having refound ourselves again individually and together? Where would we fit? So that's the only question we need to answer. But if God has other plans, we'll just have to answer that question anyways.
Sure. Well, life lessons, business lessons. What has been one of the biggest lessons you've learned in the cleaning business specifically?
One of the biggest lessons I've learned in the cleaning business. That's interesting. Is this whatever that lesson is? Are you referring to like a business lesson that maybe somebody listening can then take away from, or
Business or life, but
business or life?
something that you've learned it while in your day to day with the cleaning service specifically.
Interesting. Yeah. From a cleaning business, I don't think there's significantly any new lessons beyond like the typical whatever you learn from any kind of business. But I will say it just reminds me that being kind still works. From I think about a lot of interaction we've had with customers, like, worst comes to worst. If we don't have a system to answer a question or a process, just like what is the kindest thing to do in this moment, right? A cleaner leaves and goes to a job and maybe they made a mistake or something, right? And we have the opportunity to help them with some gas. Is that something we can do? Even though we don't have to give it to them, right? A customer selects the wrong service and is unhappy because they picked the wrong thing. They're passed a refund when all this stuff, of course, we don't have to honor it, but how much is it going to hurt us versus how much it can improve or do for them? Overall, I think it just reinforces that that's never a wrong thing. Like you can, at least I've just known over the last 15 years of entrepreneurship, being the kind thing or doing the kind thing or the human thing just has never proved us wrong. I've never regretted making that decision. Even if at the end of it, I've had the short end of the stick, I still would have done that over any other route. So, not anything new, but I would say it just further reinforces it because, when we're doing the B2B side, we just did a project with PNG last month. So for the agency stuff, we're still doing the B2B stuff, right? But in those instances, you're dealing with maybe max 5 to 6 clients a month. I'm sorry, at a time. Projects, and the project will last 3 or 4 months. With the cleaning business, last month we had about 85 cleans. Those are potentially 85 individuals, 85 encounters, 85 moments of conversations, 85 potential people that could be unhappy, and also 85 cleaners that could be unhappy. And so you have a lot more instances of that. And over time, I think it still proves the same thing. Like the default should just be kindness, and I think it helps us. It's helped us avoid a lot of issues, in my opinion, in the business.
Everything, I don't want to say everything can be fixed with kindness, but a lot can be avoided to get escalated by just baseline being kind. And yeah, it just makes things so much easier.
Yeah.
What would you say has been the hardest change or transition for you, whether it be leadership or with the cleaning business or at home? Somebody watching this who is either on the fence and scared to start or just starting, who might not have encountered the transition or the change yet might not be the same, but something that they could potentially look out for, and how you navigated it. What was that specifically?
I think a couple of things are worth noting. Right? Throughout this whole conversation, I'm referring to how great my life is and all the things, right? And I want to clarify that nothing is perfect. It's just perfect for me, right? Or I don't want somebody listening to this saying, man, he got started in the cleaning business. I'm 2 years in and I'm not even at a fraction of that. Right? I want to clarify that these are, you know, those are not the 100% situations that we deal with. And for example, like when it comes to work, me and my wife disagree probably more than we agree on business decisions, right? We disagree on a lot of life things as well. So I want to clarify and make that known just because I don't want to put the wrong thing out there. If somebody's in a relationship, even they're like, see, my partner date, we can't work together because they never agree. Me neither. We just find ways to find common ground, right? We're not the same people and we don't have to be. And so I just want to clarify some of those things. And at the same time, within our businesses, I've had to start over twice, 2013 and 2018. Both of those times I had mentioned that one client that led to the basic end of that business, and we had to start over from scratch and completely like let go of the entire team and start over. We had done the same thing earlier in 2013. And so I'm saying that to say again, it's not like I got into it 15 years ago. I mentioned I was cutting hair, I was making beats, and then I just got into marketing and I've been successful ever since. I have failed more than I've won, and it is hard for everybody. And so if there's anything you take away from it is that give yourself and your situation grace, because this is the hardest road, starting a business. And it's an impossible thing to do. Like, honestly speaking, I'm extremely grateful for my life. But if 15 years ago you said to me, hey, Jacques, I'm going to give you a glasses. Once you put it on, you're going to see the next 15 years. And you're even going to be able to see and feel your life afterwards and how good it's going to be or what have you. But you're also going to see what you're going to have to go through these next 15 years to do it. I would never have done it. I would have just said, give me a job. Let's keep it going. Because I'm not that brave to know what's coming and go through it. It's just once I got into it, I just day by day and just kept on doing the things and reacted. But if you could tell me what was coming, I was never going to take that chance. And so for anybody who is thinking about starting or have started and things are not going so well, just know that we have all gone through it and some of us are still going through it today. Like it's normal for you to be going through whatever it is you're going through, because nothing worth having is easy because everybody else will be doing it, right? And also remember, you can't have things you've never had without doing things you've never done. And this is for those who have to do some things that they're, some hard things like go to networking events or push yourself out there, right? Like that hard thing sometimes is the thing that's in the way of your success. So just want to clarify to kind of bring it all together is one, definitely give yourself some grace, right? One of those times I had to start over led to me filing for bankruptcy one of those years. I believe it was 2018, right? And so, yes, there are the stories. If you look at my LinkedIn, look at my website, you see all the successes, but there are also a lot of things, right? A lot of L's, I take them as lessons, but there are a lot of L's in the process as well. So if you're currently going through your L stage, embrace it and acknowledge that it's okay. I mean, you're doing the hard thing. Everyone can go get a job, right? And I'm not downplaying job or positively paying. And I'm just saying you're doing the hardest thing. And so give yourself some grace, keep at it, seek help or watch videos like this, but just know that it's not easy and it's never easy for anybody. And even those who make it look easy, chances are you're just not getting the full story.
Beautifully said. Especially you mentioned if you're going through the L, that's one of, I personally think, the as hard as it is, whatever loss you're going through, whether it's a family member or a business or a failure, whatever failure, it's not a failure. It's one of the biggest wins, minus a death, obviously, but one of the biggest wins you can have in a failure, not to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And the next time around, if the same situation presents itself, not to do it that way. That's already one way to navigate through and make sure that you can get another step closer to success. And it is day by day. It is moment by moment. There are more tough days, especially in the beginning, than there are easy days. If you just put one foot in front of the other, you'll get there. Oh yeah. Transitioning over to hiring in the cleaning service. Now this will be, let's go more all in on Chery Maids. Do you have employees or contractors?
We have contractors.
Contractors. And how many do you have?
The short answer is 5, but
Okay.
then within each, there are teams, like one of them have 12, for example. So one of our contractors has her own company and she has a team of 12. And so we technically have the power of 6 teams because teams of twos. Five is the actual number. Like if you looked at our system, right?
Mhm.
In terms of the manpower that we have, right? It can be upwards of 15 to 20
Okay. I see.
individuals.
Okay. And when you're focusing on hiring, where are you going? Facebook, Indeed, what's your go-to for that?
Yeah, I have not tried Indeed. A lot of folks recommend Indeed. I think my theory on Indeed, and I've done a variation of something similar to Indeed, and my theory is I'm generally going to find folks who are looking for full-time work. And because I'm looking for independent contractors, I'm looking for folks who already have their businesses. But the other reason why I stay away from Indeed, again, doesn't mean it doesn't work. I know a lot of people that successfully use Indeed. The other reason is because I'm also looking for people who are accountable. And so generally when you have, a Facebook page with reviews, when you have a website, the more work you've put into your business, this is all assumptions, but to me, the more accountable you will be willing to be versus someone who's kind of brand new to cleaning, put up a job at Indeed, do a job, they didn't like it didn't work hard, they just leave and go do something else, right? And so generally I'm finding cleaners on Facebook. I'm looking at Facebook groups, so there are two things we're doing. There's a gentleman actually from the Booking Koala community that shared this strategy with me, and I've added some more to it. But I'm looking for groups that are community groups within a city. So, like, there are subdivisions in certain communities. So, I look for the large subdivisions, find community groups of those subdivisions, and look at who they're recommending as cleaners. So, people, moms, dads, make posts all the time saying, "Hey, looking for a cleaner." And so we find those people in the comments that were recommended essentially and reach out to them and say, hey, we have a script for what we say. This is Jacques with Chery Maids. We work with independent cleaners, da da da. If you have some more room in your schedule, we'd love to chat. They will schedule a call and then kind of the process goes that way. So that's one of the ways. The other way is we also just go to the traditional, like, local services of city page, and we see people who are actively advertising themselves, which implies they are a business, or they at least they want to be a business and they were looking for clients. So that's more of the low hanging fruit. But the problem with that is we don't have the approval of a homeowner who tagged them or said, yep, this is the person to use. So for them, we're a lot more like, yeah, let's do the sample cleans. Let's see what we can do to gauge their skill sets. So those are the two places we find cleaners.
So that micro Facebook group that you're already skimming through the comments to find somebody, it's already a referral. It's
Yeah,
somebody
exactly.
who I know Facebook groups are places where I was mentioning in previous interviews, and, so many business owners say that that's a great place to go. But you going one step further, I never thought of, doing that. I'm always like, okay, just go through the group and find the person that's publishing themselves,
Yeah,
looking for the work.
right.
But you're doing one step further and finding the homeowner who is being like, hey, this is my cleaner. They're great. They need more work. Hire them.
And you know what normally happens with that group too? That first group, they're not spending money on ads. They're not, this is like they're not actively they don't mind clients, but sometimes they don't really know how to go about it. So their business is mostly on referrals anyway. And so we tend to find that with those cleaners, they're a bit better about accepting the rates that we offer them once we make our offer to them versus the ones who are also entrepreneurial like us, the ones who are promoting themselves, who maybe even go to the point of running ads. They acknowledge that a $200 job, right, is not $200 because if I spend $100 to get that customer, so they know those things, and so as a result, they tend to have more overhead. So they're the ones where we have more issues with getting a number that works because we do a percentage split with them, and we just kind of offer them based on the value of the cost of the clean.
And do you utilize the hiring portion inside your Booking Qual account?
And that's probably just my lack of not exploring it enough. That's the process where it's not really we just kind of send them a text message, just say, hey,
Okay.
and if they're not interested, we just leave it. And those who are interested, once we have a conversation with them, then we invite them to Booking Koala to then send them a sample job.
So your hiring process is essentially super short then.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What's it look like
Yeah.
then,
Yeah, I'll
essentially?
break it down for you. So and I have maybe I can send it to you if it's something that makes sense you want to add to the show notes or something, but we have a process map of what it looks like. But ultimately, we find a lead or find a cleaner, reach out to them, and based on we kind of briefly via a text messages tell them, hey, we're such and such from this company. We look to partner with independent cleaners who may, have more room on their schedule. There's a script that my team uses to send this message. And then would you be interested? And if they say yes, then we'll say these are some sample pricing that we offer. And this is something we do similar to our clients. A lot of people, that's also probably unpopular opinion. A lot of people would say don't lead by pricing. We tend to lead by pricing a lot. When it comes to leads that comes in, our customers, the first message they get from us is, hey, thank you for your inquiry for your 4-bedroom and 3-bathroom home. The price is going to be this price. When would you like to get this thing scheduled? We lead by pricing. So we do the same thing for the cleaners. We'll say, okay, here are a couple examples for this 4-3, 500, it'd be this, for this situation to be that, for this, it'd be that. Well, would that work for you? Then yes or no, and then we proceed. And so that's our way of qualifying both the clients and the cleaners on pricing, right? And so, because the alternative is we'll go through this process, have the interview. We used to do the Zoom interview, but then we switched it to phone call. It's just quicker. They had a lot of technical stuff and, oh, I'll do it next, so we just do a quick phone call. And then we go through the process. Sounds good. Everything is good. And at the end, we say, this is a sample job. They go do it. Work is great. Then we'll say, all right, here's a project. Oh, no, there's too little. And for us to give them what they wanted, we were making 10%, which doesn't even cover the ad costs. And so now we qualify early by just giving the price, right? So to go back to the process, find a lead, send them that message. If interested, then we qualify them with price. These are some examples of what the price looks like. Does that work for you? If sounds good, let's schedule a call. So my head of operations has a call with them. There's a script that she follows that basically asks a couple questions, typical stuff like just to gauge, what kind of tools you have, just to see the level of quality we can expect from there, any experience, what have you, et cetera, et cetera. And then from there, if all sounds good, we'll send them on a sample clean. And we do sample cleans. So we do a couple of things. We do our home, but my home is tough because it's hard to see before and after. Generally, we'll do my home if we have family in the area. And other times we'll send it to clients we work with in the past who were happy with the service, but it's been like 3 months or plus. That's in the area. We'll reach out to them, offer them a free 2-hour clean. Hey, we'd love to offer you a free 2-hour clean. We're training somebody and we send the cleaner there. And then we ask the client at the end, just ask the cleaner, hey, what I want to, if I want to schedule a next clean, how do I do that? And then just a test basically to see if
They're going
the
to,
cleaner is going to say, oh yeah, sure. Here's my, or
yeah.
call the office or something like that. And then once that's good, then we go to the legal stuff. We invite them to our bank to pay them for the sample clean, get their W-9, background check, and then they're on our system, and then they're considered for jobs.
So you background check after they do the Texas clean,
The first clean, yeah.
but you make sure that they're either your home or a family member's home.
Or someone that's expecting that, that knows that, like, I'm not going to send them on a road job, for example. Right.
Okay.
And so, I mean, if you think about it, when we hire anybody from the street, we don't background check them. They just come and then we're home and we can see and whatever.
Right.
And so we figured that's not going to be an issue. But then, and, knock on wood, nothing has ever happened. And we've, it's only been a year and 3 months, but we've never had anything, never a team member take, nothing like that. But anyways, but yeah, we do it because again, you spend that money, background check and do all that, and then the cleaner can't clean, or the client's not happy or something like that. It's like you just throw money down the drain. And so it's a risk we're willing to take and just make sure that we're part of that process throughout from, hey, how far are you? 10 minutes? Okay. Hey, client cleans 10 minutes away. Hey, client cleans outside, and if it's a situation, we don't send them to homes where it's like the client won't be home. They have to be home. They have to kind of be around to monitor the clean and kind of see. Part of them getting the free 2-hour job, their job is to kind of look at how this person is. We ask them questions like, this person a kind person? Like, how are their attitude, their vibe? So my team member gets on a call with the client afterwards and asks them those questions. How did they do? To then decide, okay, we can bring them on next time.
Okay. And I must have forgot to ask, you just mentioned you started the cleaning business just over a year ago, a year and 3 months.
It was June or July, 2024, excuse me, June or July, one of the two.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was June, I think. Sorry. Yeah.
And then are you always hiring or do you pause and resume?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Are you navigating that part of it?
We should be always hiring, and we are. The speed of how fast we hire changes depending on what's happening in the business on a day-to-day basis. So we always have, at least once a week, we're doing hiring activities. But for example, there may be like a job we have in an area and we don't have somebody that covers it. And we'll have to pass on that job or push it back and say, hey, sorry, we can't do it now, maybe in 2 weeks. Stuff like that will remind us, hey, we really got to get two more cleaners in this area, two more cleaners in that area. So, but I think we're also not, we're not big. I mean, I don't know what people would constitute us, but we're not a huge company in the cleaning space either, right? And so we're still not, there are companies I know that are doing 15 cleans a day. We're not nowhere near that kind of stuff. So right now the team we have works, and because of that one team that can do up to 12, we tend to always have coverage. And so they kind of give us a false sense of we're good, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to have somebody until they don't. So that's the only thing. So, but, I have 2 team members, and one of them, part of her duties is to be actively bringing new leads into the pipeline of cleaners, except we just don't do that in an official matter of like, here's a platform, they're there, we drag them. We just kind of quickly send them a message, quickly qualify. If they're not a good fit, we just like marked as done on we use open phone. We just mark them as done and they don't exist anymore. But then those who are interested, that's what we proceed the next steps with.
So smooth for sure, just because you have that one who can always fill those gaps.
Yeah, yeah,
Next sets of questions is going to be marketing. So if your marketing speeds up, you can handle it. But
exactly.
you're also at a point where even if it slows down, you're still good to maintain with
Yeah.
the current hires that you have. So what are you currently doing for marketing? You said you didn't have either you currently have a marketing company or you did. So I'm assuming you don't outsource. You do it all yourself. What is your top 3 things that you're doing for it?
Yeah. And we have a process map for that as well. So if there's room for that in editing, I can share those things. Ultimately, when we started the business in the very beginning, we started with Facebook. Well, we started with LSA, actually, Google Local Services. And then we did it for maybe 2 months or so, and then we turned it off. We're in Tampa. That's our local market. It just was too competitive. It's like $60 a call. I didn't like the text messages because people wouldn't reply and we still get charged for it. So we just did the calling and it was like $60. And I was like, and we were not, we were closing like 30%. And so that's 120, 180. This doesn't make any sense. So we turned it off. We started doing Facebook advertising. So with Facebook, different from LSA, we weren't getting phone calls. We were getting inquiries who, on our site, they fill out the lead form. And so we did that. And with Facebook now, our customer acquisition costs was about, and I'm going top of my head about this. It's been a while since I looked at it, but customer acquisition costs on Facebook was about, I want to say 150 to 180, but majority of them were recurring jobs. Similar to LSA, similar pricing, but we were getting, once we get them, following few jobs were
Paying off.
profitable, right? And so that's how we grew the business initially to, I want to say even K or so in revenue, just through Facebook. And I should also clarify, I'm in Tampa now. I've been here for 2.5 years, but I'm not like local to Tampa. And so I don't have like, oh, I just make one post and all my Facebook friends are going to hire us. So this was technically a brand new market for us, because a year and almost a half ago, we had been in Tampa for about a year. So, but we definitely had to rely on advertising when we first started out. Then, so we did Facebook, and I want to say January of 2025, that's this year, started back last year. I actually tried Google Ads, not the PPC, spent $1,000 and then you get one lead. I was like, yep, this doesn't work. Went back to Facebook, and then I tried it again this time around, this January, like very light budget, but we got a couple leads. I was okay. We got one thing. Now we got to work on closing those leads. And in February, it's either February or March, spent half of our budget, which at the time I think it was like we spent 2 or 3 grand, half on Facebook, half on Google. And I became a believer on Google Ads, and primarily because what it did was it dropped our customer acquisition costs, but it increased our order value, how much people are spending. Because with Google, we're optimizing for deep clean and move cleans, whereas on Facebook, we're optimizing for recurring. And so while it's great that we get money over and over, if the customer churn after 3 months, it's like it wasn't even worth it. So with Google, we did it the reverse route, where we say, let's get the big jobs first and then try to convert them to recurring. And so I believe Google, top of my head, the customer acquisition cost was about 100, 105, something like that. And then with whatever organic stuff we're doing, it brings our average now, which is to this day, our average is about $85 customer acquisition costs. We're talking about strictly just new customers. We do rebook old customers, stuff like that, but looking at new customers, our average customer acquisition cost is about $85. And that's like 100 from Google and whatever organic stuff we have going on. And I'll share with you what those organic things are. So with that said, with Google, our cost per lead is about $20. Facebook, it was about $8. So $8 cost per lead on Facebook, but it would take over 10 leads to close. Google, we have like a 20% closing rate. So 1 out of every 5 generally becomes a customer. And then in addition to that, we're not doing as much right now, but we're still doing some cold outreach via email, primarily going after property managers and realtors. And so with those guys, it's great. We offer them a significant discount, but they're booking, like one person in August, for example, booked like 10 jobs, one property manager. So like we get a lot more bookings from them, smaller rates, smaller amount of money, but you get that consistency. And then the other way that we actually get customers is from regular email, right? I've made a video in the Booking Koala community about this, where just remarketing to people who are already on so 1 out of 5 closes, but that 4 remarketing to them over and over again. And over time, some of those 4, they then become a new customer and it's still considered a new customer. And so those are the ways now we get our customers. And we're working on some Google profile optimizations now. So hopefully maybe in a future interview, I can say we also get X amount from local Google SEO, whatever. But for now, our main source is Google. That's who gets most of our money. And then we do some cold outreach, primarily looking at partnerships with property managers and realtors. And then twice a month, we send emails to our list targeting those who didn't book. So they came in, they were interested, whatever, but they never booked. And we just keep trying to get them to become a customer, however long it's going to take.
The partnership is huge.
Yeah.
It's something that's free because, you don't have to pay anybody. You could cold outreach to all the property managers in the area. If you're lucky to have, I don't necessarily want to use the word lucky, but if you so happen to choose a city that has a good amount of high rises, a lot of rental properties, property managers are bread and butter, not necessarily for recurring, but those move in, move out jobs,
Sure.
huge. And you can almost always expect at the summertime, like you just mentioned in August, 10 bookings, right? And I can only assume that a lot of those would be a move in or a move out,
Yeah.
right?
All of
So
them were move cleans. Yeah. For
move
that
cleans.
one particular person. Yeah.
Yeah. Partnerships, huge. And that's one of the questions that I always ask, like, do you have one? If you do, what is it? If you don't, why not? Because it's for all the resources that you can spend money on for marketing. A lot of people forget that there are free routes that can hammer down, a good amount of clients for you.
Mhm.
What would you say is how are you leveraging data that you pull from these sets and your decision making on whether to move forward or change things up or something else?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy you asked that because I think it goes back to my nerdy days, right? So I love data. I make decisions based on data. And so for me, and this is the reason why, for example, when it comes to us using Google Ads, I can make a decision and say I'm going to move forward with this, not because I feel good about this or anything, but the numbers literally said that we should, right? And so at the same time, things like our closing rate, things like our gross margin and profit margin, all those kind of things, it helps us see that we're in a healthy business or what we need to work on just based on that alone. I can share with you. So right now, our gross profit is about 35%. So, that means on a $100 job, we're making $35. And then from there, that's what pays the team or whatever, or ads and etc. So, and I'm working to raise that, but it is in a normal, healthy range. I would like to be at the 40 range, right? We don't pay our cleaners 65% for context because the cleaners are who takes up the 65. We don't pay them 65%. However, whenever there's an issue or refund or something, we generally take it out of our cut, not the cleaner. And so although we pay them a smaller percentage than 65, once it's all said and done, it ends up being that. At the same time, also, if the client leaves a tip on our card, the cleaners get 100% of it. So if the job was 100, but then let's say the client leaves $200 tip for simple math, right? Let's just say we were 50-50 with, hypothetically, we're 50-50 with the cleaners. $100 job, we both get 50. But since they're going to get the extra 100 from the client, they get 150, we get 25. That's a 75-25 split on paper. So those are some of the reasons why our percentage end up being 65-35. So it's cool. But I know it's in a healthy range, but if something were to go wrong, it would get to 30. That's a sign like, okay, you got to figure something out, right? Same time with our closing rate, it's about 18.9 or something like that percent. Again, safe route, not a big deal. If we're hovering at 12, I'll say, okay, we got to figure something out. Low price, get better leads, get us something, right? Right now, another unpopular opinion is 90% of our sales happens through text message. So like majority of our customers, I'm talking about 9 out of 10 that you have never heard our voices. And that's unpopular opinion. And maybe I would believe it too until I saw that the sales percentage and closing rate was in normal range. And so clearly it's not broken. Could it be better? Could we get it to 25% by maybe calling the clients every day and doing a phone call? Sure. But one, our ideal customers don't mind texting. And two, maybe we can increase that percentage by 5. But as a result, the manpower we would need, the human hours we would need, increases our costs by X, and it ends up being even worse than before. And so extremely important, for us. Like I have which I know I keep bringing this up, but I have shared this in the BK community. But we have a KPI sheet that we use where my head of operations once a week just goes in and updates everything from revenue, expenses, marketing, and how much we pay cleaners, how much money we refunded, how many jobs we did, all that, right? And then from there, when we meet once a week, we'll look at it and say, well, you gave a lot of refunds this week. What happened? Then we'll talk about it, figure out what we need to solve. Oh man, we did a lot of discounts this week. We had a lot of cancellation this week. What happened? And so we are very much about the numbers. It is the thing that governs our decision making before anything. So we figure the number and it tells what we need to do. But then it goes back to that kindness thing we talked about, which is, I can probably just offer our cleaners less money. Like in theory, we can always,
Right.
but at the same time, I'm like, but I know these people. They have kids who just graduated, who are getting married. Like if I'm not going there with news like, hey, we're going to increase your pay, then I don't have no business taking people's money away. And even so, what we offer them is probably not even enough for them. Those are so once you get the numbers, then you're like, all right, well, is that the right thing to do, or do we need a different solution? For example, if we want to decrease our 35% or whatever, yeah, we can just pay cleaners less. That's one way. Or we figure out a way to brand ourselves where we can charge more to our customers. And then that maybe is a solution that gives us more money. And even maybe if it still stays at 35%, but that 35% is a much bigger number to us than the initial 35. So that's where how we use numbers to make decisions.
You're giddy. I love to see it because there's a lot of people who are like, there are the numbers, but I look at the numbers because, I'd be a bad business person if I didn't. But like seeing you being driven by the numbers
Yeah.
and it's refreshing to see just because there are people who just, I forget the expression, like shoot off their hip and just kind of go with the flow in that sense. But you're bringing that big brother kindness even into your decision making with data and numbers, and you're like, if, like you said, I don't want to take money away from cleaners just so I make more money. So now what is this data telling me? This data is saying I need to change XYZ. That's on me to do it, and I'm not going to go and just go the easy route and pull from the cleaners. Just have to make other decisions. What would you just say that you do to stay on top of industry trends? I know there's not a lot of industry trends specifically to cleaning itself,
Mhm.
but whether it be networking, whether it be marketing, how do you stay on top of all that?
Yeah. Great questions. I mean, one, I'm very active in the BK community. I'm hearing and seeing what people are saying, right? And so even before I was using Google Ads, I was hearing what people were saying about it. And most were not really good. A lot of folks don't really have great experience with Google Ads. That's why most folks do Google LSA anyway, right? And so I think one, the environment that you guys have built in that community, I don't know, I'm new to it. I'm a year and change into it, but those who probably been around for 5 years, maybe they know more. Whatever you've done to foster whatever it is in there, it's became this place where folks are sharing transparently what they're learning, what they're making, what they're doing. That's what inspired me to start sharing in the first place, right? I saw people sharing things and I'm like, I have these skill sets that I'm bringing from a whole different industry, right? This is stuff I've been doing for years. And I kind of gravitated towards this more systemizing things and SOPs and building those kinds of businesses with numbers as the thing that we used to make decisions. I started doing it into this business and I'm like, this is nothing for me. These are easy. Let me share this with folks. So the space you guys have built, I think is definitely an amazing area for just to be in. Just being there allows you to see what's happening in other people's businesses in other cities. And it kind of gives you a sense of what you may want to test out or what's to come. Same thing with this podcast, right? Talking with other entrepreneurs, them sharing what they're doing. I'm sure maybe there's something I'm doing that somebody's listening. They're like, man, I could do that too. And they'll start doing it. Same thing applies. So I think just being in the BK ecosystem alone by default has already helped me have a place where I can kind of stay up to date and learning from other folks and seeing what's happening in the industry. So that's the most of it. And then outside of that, just being the nerd that I am, I love software and tools. So I'm probably subscribed to all their newsletters and seeing what they're coming out with and seeing what's new and all the things that's coming out. So that's the other one. Right now I spend a lot of time thinking about, which I'm sure everybody is, like AI and how to use it within your business. And I don't love the idea of like letting AI take over a thing, but I wonder what are some things that it can make a little simpler and a little easier. And
Sure.
so there's some stuff I'm thinking about that. But yeah, I would say that's my process right now.
Well, we appreciate the kind words for the group. I mean, there have been highs and lows, and I mean, even getting it started when we launched the software and getting people to just write anything in there was a
Yeah.
challenge. But yeah, again, especially over the last year, this year, especially from spring on, there's been a lot of changes in that group. And I personally feel like now we're at a point, like you said yourself, you are a big proponent in just being completely open with what you are doing and sharing without essentially being a guru and just being like, hey, this is how I do it. Try it out. Maybe it helps you. If it does, great. If it doesn't, maybe you took something else away from it and you can kind of tweak it to your own and hopefully it works. So, again, strive our best in there as well, just because we know that you guys, without you guys, we're nothing.
Mhm.
So, we appreciate you being so vocal in there and we hope you continue to be.
For sure.
We know that you have partnerships already. What about customer loyalty, generating repeat business? What's your bread and butter for that? What are you, is it, is it your data or
Yeah.
is
No,
it something else?
so we used to have this promotion that we turned off recently and we replaced it with something that's working so much better. So if anybody wants to use it, feel free. So when we do on Facebook, right, we're doing this thing. It's nothing unique. I'm sure we probably heard everybody like to say they doing it. I'm sure I heard it somewhere. I saw it somewhere in passing, but we were doing a free deep clean upgrade for anybody who signed up for biweekly. So if you sign up for
Sure.
biweekly, So if you sign up for biweekly cleaning, we would give you for the same price of the biweekly. Our first service will just do a deep clean, and then the second service will do the biweekly service. So that was a promotion that we had, and we ran it for a couple of months, maybe 4 or 5 months or so. It was most of our initial recurring came from that. Now there are a few people who came and just got a deep clean, enjoyed the service, and then said, "Hey, I actually want to hire you guys for biweekly." Right? These were pre Google because now that's what we mostly do. But back in the day, back in Facebook days, we used to do that. So, but since then, the biweekly free deep clean, it was so confusing. Like some people we signed with that promotion, they'll say, "Hey, it's asking for my card, but you said the deep clean was free." And so I said, "No, it's a free upgrade, meaning you still have to pay for the biweekly. Is the deep clean is like we're gonna include." It got complicated, like because people expected basically for us to go to their house, clean their entire home for free, and then in the following week they'll pay for the biweekly, right? And so the shift we've done with that is simply just when you sign up for biweekly, we're just gonna be 25% off your deep clean. Just that simple thing. And we're getting so many more yeses from that. Then just to show you like it felt too good to be true for folks, or it was just too confusing for other folks. Whereas the 25%, I guess in their mind, they could see you still making money from that. And so it doesn't feel like kind of something scammy or something. So we just made that one change, and obviously it leads to us having more money and whatever, and it works out better. So that's one of the ways we're um, getting people to convert is we offer them 25% off their. So they come for deep, we say we can give you 25% off if you want biweekly. And if they come for biweekly, we require them to start with the deep, but we do give them 25% off. So that's how we communicate that on both sides. Now, that's one of the things we do. The second thing is we do free. This is an actual, we kept this one we do free deep clean upgrade every 6 months. So if you are on a bi-weekly plan, every 6 months, you earn a free deep clean upgrade credit. And so whenever you want it, we'll just come and do deep clean, and then we'll just keep going. Your price doesn't change. So those are the two things. And we also give everybody a chance to give a 15% off coupon to any friends or family. So those are some of our promotions that are our loyalty. On our website, there's a page called benefits, basically the benefit of working with us. And it basically lists these things out. Like by being a customer, these are the perks you get. And you get this code for you give to your family, free deep clean upgrade every 6 months, 25% off to start, like all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Wow. I the the way you worded it in the beginning, not gonna lie, initially it sounded like you're cleaning for free, and then
Yeah,
they're signing up. So I could see how others
for
were
sure.
perceiving it that way. But yeah, the way you were able to just realize it and change it, and now you have even more people giving you the yes and have more recurring clients, which is bread and butter in this industry, is huge. So with that in mind, what's your strategy for managing growth and just making sure you're hitting whether you have soft milestones in your mind, goals, stuff like that?
Yeah. So last month we had about 26.5K in revenue last month. So, the next milestone is gonna be 30. So last month was also our first month crossing the 20 milestone. That was our 20K milestone was because the month prior we made like 18K or something like that. And then we're like, okay, we can hit 20K. We passed that goal and hit 26K. This month our goal is to hit 30. And then within the next 2 or 3 months, we want to hit 50. The challenge with these things, because and I'm speaking like this, but like on the flip side, I'll have a campaign. So about the marketing side. So we still run a marketing agency called Shade. It's an influencer marketing agency where brands hire us to help them find influencers and do their project and that kind of thing. And so for for those campaigns, some of those budgets are 20, 50, 100K. And so it's ironic that we're talking about, on the one hand, on the one part of my life, we have $200 cleans, and then you have $50,000 marketing jobs, right?
Okay, in the next couple months.
So what I love about the goals for the cleaning business that's a little different from the agency is that the agency, there's still a level of expertise needed for myself and my wife. We're still the go-to people in that business because we're the one that possess the strategic background to be able to strategize on what to do next. And so we're involved in that as little as we can be, but that's still pretty involved. The cleaning business, we're probably 5% involved, if all that. And so that's what I love about it. So today, 11:30 in the morning, I couldn't tell you what's happening today. I'm sure I can find out. I got to go to Slack and see, but nothing has been urgent enough for me to get a call. Nothing has been urgent enough for me to get like something direct. And so everything else is, my assumption is not that everything's going according to plan, but everything's going according to whatever that can be handled by the team. And so what I love about that in my milestones there, because generally I think we could have scaled this thing significantly faster if we wanted to just like be physically involved in the business. But my goal and challenge has been, how do we scale while the business grows without us, which means, we're paying for folks, we're paying for help. And also too, how do we scale the right way where we're scaling, not just starting, because right now I told you my customer acquisition cost is about $100, excuse me, with Google. And so if I spend $2,000, I should get 20 customers. If I want 40 customers, I could just spend $4,000. So we can just spend more money and we have access to more money to spend. But there's also this thought of what's the quality control like, right? How can we, we've handled 7 cleans in a day before, and it's, maybe rocky here and there, but then over time now, 6 and 7 cleans a day is nothing. It's normal for us now, right? A couple months ago, 4 cleans was like rocky, and then now it's normal and not a big deal, right? And so we're trying to grow slow and smart, but also grow, right? And so when we hit 50K, what I'm going to be happy about is that 50K will mean we're at a place as a company where we can manage that, and it's not like we're taking these jobs that we can't really handle. We'll have the teams that can handle it. We'll have the bandwidth to handle it from a team standpoint. And a client who hired us when we were doing 3 cleans a day won't feel any different now that we're doing 10 cleans a day or 50. That's the goal. Like, how do we make sure that we can handle it and no one else has to notice, like if it's difficult? And so
Right.
that means, what systems do we need to change as we grow? What tools do we need to introduce? What data do we need? What can we automate as much as we can? And so little things like that. And so those are the work that the team is kind of thinking about. And when we do meet on a weekly basis with the team, those are the things we're looking at. But yeah, so the next milestone for me, I would say, is 30, which I'm hoping we can hit this month. And then after that's going to be 50. And then we'll see how that goes. And I'm sure we'll have another milestone after that.
Going into the slow season now, because fall and the winter, I don't know how much you may have noticed it last year, starting in June or July, but towards the end of the year, kids are back in school, sports and stuff, holidays are around the corner. This industry tends to slow down quite a bit, doubling your revenue essentially from 20 in the next 60 to 90 days is huge. If you can accomplish that at the same time as the slow season starting to come. So I am very excited to hear in the next couple months where you're at with that, because if you can accomplish that, that's all others are, withdrawing or slowing
Mm-hmm.
down. That would be massive. Absolutely. We've been touching a little bit on revenue already. How much have you done in just over a year total since you started?
I can go, there's a tab I can look at. I know it's over 100, but it's probably easier for me to kind of give you a quick, like what the months look like the last couple
Yeah,
months.
that
And
I
then
mean,
maybe
that would be a next
somebody else
question. Yeah.
could do the math. First month, I think we did 1,600. Second
Okay.
month, it was about 3,600 or so. Third month, it was somewhere around the same 3,600. So let's just say, I'm pretty sure it was June. So let's say June was 1,600. That was like 3,600. We kind of stayed around there for a few months. I know that our first $5,000 was January of this year. It was like 5,300. And that was approaching the 6 month mark. And I've had a conversation with a few friends in the BK community that I met, and they were like, "Man, you can scale so fast. Why are you?" But I just told them I wanted to learn the business. I didn't know the business, right? Like, so the first few months, it was just like trial and error. Like, let's just test a few things. And so those first few months, once we kind of we stayed around that 5K for most of the first 6 months of the business, right? Replacing clients and that kind of thing, and looking for cleaners. By the second month, we realized, oh yeah, we got to slow these ads down because we're getting more clients than we have cleaners, and we don't know if they're going to be. So we stopped for a little bit, went to recruitment, hired a team member, train her. So there's a few things that happen in between, but we stayed around that 3 to 4K for like the rest of the year from August and beyond. So then in January, we reached like 5,300, if I'm not mistaken. And then that's when we said, okay, let's scale a little bit more. So we decided we were going to scale. And so the following month, we hit 10,800, something like that. And then that was February. So 10 February, March, or I can go to another tab. I can just look at it.
Yeah, you can
Remember.
use the tab if you want.
Yeah. So what I'll just go is I'm actually going to just look at our scorecard because, yeah, 10,150 was February. And actually, this scorecard will tell me. So this year, it's been 121.
January till now.
That's the math. And then
Okay.
let me see. Right. Yeah. Yeah. This year's been 121K. And then last year, I can look at the scorecard from then as well. Then that could tell us what it was. But let me just see. Let me make sure. Year one. No, that's not filled out. And year two. I probably should have had those prepared, right? But I just want to make sure this is accurate before I give this numbers. Well, what I do have access to, I do have the month to month. So January, 5,500. February, 10,150. March, 14,670. April, 16,076. May, 17,320. June had a decline. A bunch of recurrings went away. So June, we went down to 12,300. July, 19. August, 26. And then September so far. So that's what it is. Let me go back to our screen together. Yep. So, and let me make sure. I know I said the 121. That's what the scorecard's saying, but let me make sure that that number is accurate for the, to represent the whole year. The math seems a little off to me, but hopefully somebody listening could do the math and, look at, because 26 plus 19, that's about 46 or 45. And then 12, that's about 57. Then 17, that's about 77 minus 3, 74. And then 16, that's about 80, 90.
Do you
Going
have
back to the
do you have an outlook for the rest of the year? Like a potential what you're looking at, or is it just what you're trying to Because you're
Yeah.
at 121 now. What do you think you're going to finish off the year in total?
See, I don't know if I have the answer to that question, but I do know that it's weird to say, right? Like, so I'm used to businesses, like, like I had a project with Crayola it was like last 2 years ago. 2 years ago, yeah. I had a project with Crayola, which made 150, like a project, right? So like I'm used to that in that world, you know what I mean? So and and I've had projects that are in the seven figures too, like one project. So for me, this is still like seeing what this could do. Most of this, I haven't touched the profits from the business as well. Just kind of letting them stay there and you reinvesting some if need be, right? I think my goal, PK, is when I'm gonna feel comfortable taking money out of business. So regardless of what it does, like because I'm not really looking at the business from a year point of view, primarily because too, we've reached certain points in the business and we just kind of stop and say, like right now, my goal is to get to 30K. We're actively doing things towards there. But before that, we were just saying, all right, let's just let things run as they are now. Let's clean the business, smoothen it, make sure we don't have any issues. And then we'll just keep jumping and keep jumping and keep jumping, right? Like the truth of the matter, if I wanted to make 50K next month, I can. Can I make 50K next month profitable and everybody's happy? I can't promise that. Right. And so that's the challenge is what do you need to grow from a team standpoint? Because if my teams are used to dealing with 5 cleans happening at once, I throw 10 at them, can they handle that, right? And what do we need to simplify and streamline so that they can handle those things, 10, you know what I mean? And also too, will I actually be profitable from a ad spend to, I don't know that. And so we can always spend money and get more clients, but will it be the right kind of situation? So the revenue is not something I'm spending as much time thinking about, but rather the overall health of the business. So ideally my goal is to, before the year's over, be at 50K in revenue while still having a healthy business. That's my actual goal. 50K a month, excuse me. And then from there we'll work towards keeping that 50K, because you're gonna lose a client here and there and you're gonna gain some. But if we at least stay at that 50K rate, then we'll be able to increase it so that eventually we'll be, say, at a 70, 80K a month rate, and then that puts us more in the 7-figure business route. And then we'll, keep growing and scaling as we see fit. So but that's what it is now.
So by year's end, goal is 50K a month, absolutely fine tuned, where you're ready to just jump the next several months and grow there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And you mentioned several minutes ago that you said you and your wife are about 5% in this business. At what point in the last year and 3 months did you get to that point?
It's a great question. I would say so. About 6 months ago, we brought on another team member, a secondary. And I would probably say most people, myself included, if somebody asks me for advice, I'll tell them I hired too early. But I wasn't relying on this business for the income of it. And so I was willing to give up my profits early on to have a team. You know what I mean? And also, too, from the very beginning, our goal was we wanted to build this business to run without us from the very beginning. My involvement earlier on was to learn it, to see what it's like, see how we want to do it, and then build the systems that we can train our teams on, right? And so when I say 5%, I would also say there may be a month where it's been very minimal involvement. And there may be a month where that month just felt like being kind of month where we had a few issues that required us. So I want to preface that again by saying, you're getting the marketing answer, which is true. I do want to make it, if there's a week where you're spending 30% that week, it doesn't mean, that it's not accurate, because then there's also another week where I spent nothing at all. Right. And so just keep that in mind. But in terms of the day-to-day process, right? So the customer comes in via mostly searching on Google. That ad comes in and they go on our website, fill out the form and become a lead. From there, they get a message automatically. Our system is, our tools are doing that, right? There's not a person there. They don't reply. The next day they get another message. Our tools are doing that. Next day, then they say, hey, actually, I'm interested. My team member comes in. Okay, great. Da-da-da. Yep, here's the booking form. Here's the booking quality form. They book. Sounds great. Thank you for your booking. Now the team goes, okay, let me assign the cleaner to this. Reaching out to the cleaner. So most of the cleaners they don't know us. And some of our newer cleaners, they don't know who we are. Like, we're not important to the business in that sense, right?
Okay.
Once a week, I'll go in, just make sure Google is working how it's supposed to. Like, okay, we're not extra spending one day, but I'm not really doing much there. It's kind of set it and forget it. And that's generally when you see we kind of hover in revenue, those few months where we just kind of let it be. Then once we have okay, we've reached a point where this is smooth, I just go in there and up the budget, make a few tweaks, make sure that by increasing the budget, we're not going to significantly increase our lead costs. Maybe that week I'm watching a little bit more closer. and then I step off and let it go, right? And so that, which is what's happening right now. But the process from them inquiring to them becoming a customer, we're not involved in that process. And then them getting on the schedule and the cleaner, we're not involved in that process. And then day of, my team, hey, your cleaning team is 10 minutes out. Hey, cleaners, how far are you? That process, we're not involved in that. So then once the cleaner's done, everybody's happy. Hey, client, would you like to leave us a review? We're not involved in that. So the cleaners do their thing. It's time to pay the cleaners. Head of operations, she pays them. If it's under a certain amount of money, we're not involved in that. If it's over a certain amount of money, we have to just, in our bank, just say yay. Like, yes, this is fine. I don't know if the number is even right or wrong because I'm not involved in that, but it's just, we're just approving that transaction. And as time goes on, we increase that number. So eventually we won't have anything to do with that. It just, even the approval process. So if they have questions like, man, I didn't get paid, they don't even know who I am. They're going to her because she's the one that pays them. She's the one that has that communication with them. So then at the same time, we're looking for new cleaners. I don't have any process to do with that. So now all the things I'm referring to, we have systems and stuff in place. We have process maps that the team can look at to see where they are and what's next. We have documentation that they need if they could use if they need help with knowing how to answer that. Now, where we are involved, for example, and even our bookkeeping and stuff, team handles that as well. Maybe there's a very unique client situation. We've never run into this before. And so they require, hey, Jacques, what would you do with this? Hey, Daisha, that's my wife. What would you do about this? We'll answer them. But then at the same time, that triggers, is this something that would happen enough where it requires a system or requires be added to our FAQ? If it does, we'll update it there. So whenever that thing comes up again, it won't need us. But then if it is something that doesn't need it, we'll just kind of let it be and say, this is just a unique circumstance. So those unique instances, those are the moments where we have to come in and say, hey, this is our opinion. This is whatever. At the same time, we'll also give our team guideline. For example, here's our refund strategy. If this, give them that. If that, give them this. If not, give them that. If we're this amount of late, we can give them up to this amount off. Right. So we have all these things in place. And whenever they would ask us the questions of what would you do, they can just go to those documents and find what they would do. And eventually now they memorize those documents. So that's how we've been able to do it. But I would say once we brought on the second team member, which was back, I want to say 6 months ago, we now had full-time coverage of team members being present in the business. That was the beginning of us walking away from it. And it gets better every month. Every month we're less and less involved, less and less there. We once a week, generally we show up and have a team meeting just to see like, hey, what's happening. But sometimes there's nothing going on and we just skip the meeting. We just, hey, we don't need to have it this week. And things are just kind of running. The team leaves an update every day. So if I want to know what happened yesterday, I can go and find it. If I want to know what's happening today, I can go and find it. But until I got a call or something specifically directed to me, it hasn't been anything new enough or that needed me enough that required me to give them my time or attention today.
Wow. I mean, I feel like you got people who are going to be watching this and being so envious of how you can get to where you're at in this business in such a short amount of time. But bigger picture is you've been essentially knowing marketing and doing things for such a long time that, like early on in the interview where we said, take your failures and learn from them. And the next time you do something, you know what not to do.
Exactly.
You're essentially doing this day in and day out and tweaking everything and making sure the next step is foolproof. And that's how you are able to have your overall 5% in the business while maintaining other businesses, living your life with your wife and your daughter, and all these other beautiful things. Where do you, in this business specifically, where do you see it in the next 5 to 10 years? I mean, I don't want to say it seems like you're emotionally disconnected from it because you're not. It's quite the opposite, in fact, because you are so integrated with whether you're not directly with, like you said, with the cleaners and with the customers, you're ingrained in every step in that business that it took to get there. So
Uh-huh.
what would you like to see in the next 5 to 10 years out of this cleaning service?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, there are a couple of thoughts that I have. A couple of thoughts. Not definitive yet, but we'll see how it turns out. So thought number one. So the company Chery Maids. Chery is actually my mother's maiden name, but my mother who passed away when I was 14. So 21 years ago. So that, there's like just a, just some kind, there's an ode there to just her memory. Right. And prior to running Chery Maids, we're actually running a company called Chery Homes, which was we purchased properties. This was a couple years ago. Purchased properties and put them on Airbnb. So we were having Airbnb properties, my wife and I, and we did it for a couple years. But we eventually realized like it wasn't as passive as the gurus said, and so I was like, I don't want to do this. So we ended up selling out of every property and got out of that business. We still own the Chery Homes name, and ironically, while running the Airbnb, we were noticing that a big part of our costs was cleaning. So initially, when we got into cleaning, it was actually because we wanted to offset our costs for cleaning the properties. And so but we decided to get out, but we stayed with the cleaning. And so right now we have maybe close to 2,000 email lists of leads who have inquired about our cleaning services. And let's just say only a fraction of those have closed, but the remainder, one, we have the next few years to still sell to them, but they also have other needs, other home service type needs. So one thought is the Chery Homes, going back to that being an umbrella company to different home services. And so Chery Maids being one, but then looking at the others, right? So Chery Painting, for example, Chery Bathtubs and that kind of thing. And just the same idea, right? You work with folks who already run a business. They're great at their work. They just don't want to become entrepreneurs. They don't want to do the work of marketing. We do that for them essentially, and they go represent us. Everybody's paid fairly and they do the work. Everybody's good. Clients happy. We're accountable. If thing goes wrong, we have our solution. We have our team run it. And so that's the current pathway. That's one of the routes, which is going deeper into the Chery name and stuff like that. The other route is I've had this thought lately of acquisition of other cleaning businesses. Obviously, we're not the biggest company in town, right? But the skill sets that we have, I can take a business that's currently doing numbers, but maybe it's really highly reliant on the owner's time. And I can just put my system into it. A few tweaks here and there, and now have it be a business that's running and just cash flowing on an monthly basis, right? And so the next thought is, do we acquire businesses around the country and have Chery Maids that way? Where Chery Maids, you have a smaller Chery Maids in this city, a little bit, and then one in Charlotte, one in there, one in there. But I say acquisition because yes, we can grow it ourselves for sure. But because of what we know, it's quicker and easier to take what's already existing and clean it up and fix it versus starting over from scratch. And so that's another thought where we're going deeper into cleaning and ignore the other home services and go straight into cleaning and just focus on that. So those are the thoughts. I'm an entrepreneur, love the entrepreneurial lifestyle. I love the business. I love when issues come up and I got to create a system for it. Right. And so that percentage of involvement that I have in the business is the one that I love the most. Solving problems using systems and softwares and tools. Like a couple weeks ago, we were into an issue where a customer we've had for like 8 months, we missed something. And it's because we have this long thread of conversation that there's no way for us to kind of scroll back and see. And so using AI, we created this thing where you click one button and it gives you a summary of all the conversation we've had with that client, right? Shared on Booking Koala, a few of the members reached out to me privately and said, hey, I built this, but I'm stuck here, little things, and I helped them. I gave them some tips, but like that was built for myself, and I just shared it with those guys, right? So I love that where we can use the tools, use the AI, use whatever to create solutions. And so then the more I add to that system, I can apply that to any business that I start in the future that's in the cleaning space. So those are the two considerations I have now, which is having different variations of this business by acquiring others and then just applying what we know to that business, or going deeper into the home service space, starting other home services and still doing the same systems and what have you. But except it would just be in this market. And maybe there's a route where we do both, right? But for now, I'm thinking it would have to be one or the other. I wouldn't be interested in doing both right now.
Take a lot out of you. It would take a lot out of
Yeah.
your
And it goes back to
partnership.
the original goal of what we're optimizing for, right? Because
Yeah,
I got to be able to do all this and still be able to make lyrical dance, which is the new one my daughter's doing, and still be able to, play basketball and have date nights and all that. And so that's
absolutely.
the non-negotiables of all this.
Whatever you do, it's going to be successful because I mean, what you've already built with this and the other companies is you have the success in you and you have the drive, you have the partner, you have everything that you built one step at a time. And you already know whatever you do, you're going to have the data behind it and you're going to make the right decision being the
Right.
nerd.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
The last several sets of questions here are, the software, Booking Koala.
Yeah.
First and foremost, I mean, being a nerd, being, teaching app design at the college you went to, what kind of a silly question, but what role does tech play in your day to day business ops?
Yeah. I mean, it's the motherboard, right? It's everything. Like we keep notes for all of our cleaners in there. So whenever there's a situation or like a new team member comes in, they go on the providers page and they're looking at what notes have we taken of each cleaner, right? We keep client notes in there. Our whole client list, everything revolves around tech in general, but speaking specifically of Booking Koala, in the beginning, when I first got into this industry, I looked at all the tools that people said, right? The jobbers, the house call pros, whatever's that's out there. There's something I appreciate about like that kind of scrappy startup, which is kind of the vibe I got from BK when I first kind of saw you guys. And then I don't know what came first, whether I joined first or I joined the community first. I'm not entirely sure, but whatever it is, it just felt right. And so I went and said, all right, we're gonna do this. We're gonna go here. I I came in and I just started playing around and I kind of figured out, okay, these are the because the tool does so much, right? Like and you can use all of it or you can use the parts that you need. You know what I mean? So for me, I felt like, okay, for the things that I need at the moment, which is getting the client to book, getting them to close, all that kind of stuff. I found them. I'm like, okay, good. Let's do this. And we just made that decision. And one of the best decisions I've ever made, because again, there are tools and I don't know how they could find if you're a BK customer, but they'll reach out. Hey, look at my demo. And I've looked at them. It's not the same. So I'm not even like a fan who's biased because I'm just such a BK fan that nobody could get me to, I've looked at the others. I'm like, no, it's just based on the data, it just doesn't work for me. And then you add the community to it now, then it makes the product even extra sticky. So yeah, I'm a fan for life. But the question of like just the role that software plays for sure. I mean, I'm a firm believer in software before you delegate. And so you're going to systemize something, you got to have a tool in between software, AI, what have you. And then whatever's left, you can delegate. And so the team member that's doing most of the work when me and my wife are not doing it is not even just my team, but it's actually the tools, which in this case, BK is one of the main ones.
Beautiful. I mean, we love having you. Obviously, you're a huge support in the community, which helps make that so much better. Did you start with us? I mean, you said you looked at everybody else. Did you initially try another one for X amount of months and then switch over, or were you with us from the get go, from when you started the cleaning service?
Great question. I don't think I tried anybody else. I think in the beginning it was you guys, and then I had Grasshopper for like my phone, and I ended up moving to Open Phone after that. But I'm trying to think of all the tools I use, and I use Airtable. No, I didn't try anything else. But what I did was though, so I'm one of those guys who like I need months of data and research before I make a decision. I'm that guy, right? And so I didn't try anybody else, but it's because I've done the research already. So for example, I'm looking at videos of folks setting up that tool and that tool and their BK. I'm looking at comparison videos. I'm looking at all the different things, trying to look at what I need, right? And so there are a couple of things I look for. I need a tool that is on Make or Zapier, just in case I need to do automations, which you guys check the box, right? Price that I felt was fair. I thought it was extremely fair, especially compared to some of the others out there. Check, right? You guys seem accessible. Like there's a Facebook group that you are a part of. It's not like this random conglomerate that who knows who owns it, right? And so it's like from a software needs, you had everything I needed. Through my research, I found, so I was like, yeah, this is it. And so then that's when I signed up. So it wasn't that I signed up or signed up for a few. I took the time on the pre-sign up phase. Then I made my decision on BK, and then here we are today.
This one's a little bit, it's always harder for me to ask, especially after how it all went down in the springtime.
Hmm.
But with the outage,
Yeah, yeah.
how did it affect you? How did you feel during that time? I mean, I mean, it was probably the hardest part of my professional life to ever go through,
Hmm.
hands down. And whenever I get a chance to, sit down one on one and connect with one of our users, I always want to know how their experience was during that time. So, can you share what you went through and how you essentially overcame that several weeks, month
Yeah,
before
yeah.
we got everything back to where
I
it needed
think,
to be?
well, first of all, I also got to say, there, I know that a lot of folks are mad, right? Granted, rightfully so, by the way, right? You're
Rightfully
paying
so.
for a tool for sure. 100% empathy there. Um, but no buts. I think at the same time, I was on the camp of, no one sabotages themselves like this. No one is going to intentionally decide to say, I'm going to put my business on the, like, so I'm saying that to say this wasn't intentional. This was whatever it wasn't something that you guys decided to do to yourselves. Right. And so there was a lot of empathy there as well. Because in my mind, I'm saying, I'm here worrying about my couple clients a day that are not getting notifications. I know if I was in that predicament, right, you know, to think of all the other business that uses this too and all their cleans, I would take that deep, like as if like, because of me right now, there are thousands of cleans happening today that are having issues. So if any of the team felt any version of that, like you guys, that's 1,000 times harder than what any one of us would have been going through. Although at the time, obviously, again, you're a paying customer, you rightfully were, how you felt. So I was thinking about that for you guys on your end. And so at the time, I started thinking about what can I even do to help some of the folks. I had made a quick video on exporting your data because it worked for me, like exporting your data to like Google Sheets or Airtable or something where you can see your cleans before things were fixed. So fortunately for me, it didn't affect me as much as it did others. And one of the reasons was because I have my, fortunately because you guys have the Zapier and Make automations, I have my cleanings being pushed to a different software, which is Airtable. That's my CRM essentially. That's where just because I've had experience with them in the past, in the beginning, that's what I was comfortable with. But I push all my bookings there. That way, when my customers and my leads come in through Google, they end up on Airtable. I have a table with my bookings as well so I could tag, so I can be able to look at a customer and see their whole journey with us. So because of that, I still had access to my data. I can still see the timing. And also to the other thing with our company is there are some companies who run their business fully automated in the sense of the software does the reminding and the cleaners just go. They don't really have a conversation with the clients. We're not really like that. We're the complete, like I speak automation all the time, but the customer experience, I still want that to be manual. And so my cleaners checking with the client every morning to tell them the cleaner's on the way and also checking how the cleaning went. Same thing applies for our cleaning. Our team members also checking with the cleaners. And so as a result, we were able to stay on top of things. We didn't have knock on wood, we would never really have issues of like, hey, no one showed up and nobody told us. Because we would have already known from that morning because we already reached out to them like, hey, you going to be there? Because there were times where we'll check in with someone and say, hey, how far are you? They're like, oh, I don't know. I can't log in. And we'll say, oh, here's the data. Here's the data. So those who relied on the cleaners to log in, find the addresses and stuff like that, I know they were hurting more than we were at the moment. So that's how that moment went for us. But I'll say I gained a lot of respect for you guys and empathy as well. Right. And again, this is not what's the rule book on how you deal with that? Right. How do you deal with that? Especially if you've never done it before. So it's, yeah, it was definitely a moment, but I didn't have any, and that's when a lot of I'm not gonna say vultures, but a lot of the others said, hey, let's poach these guys, right? And let's see who we can get. But, I think those who were for you guys stayed around and those who weren't, they weren't. And it is what it is. But hopefully you guys have been able to bounce back as a business and it's not a significant, change and stuff like that. But I would say it affected others worse than it did to us.
Okay. I mean, it was for sure a step back, but we doubled, triple, quadrupled down and learned from everything that we could have in that moment. And it made us stronger. And going forward, we know that we hope to God we never run into that situation again. And unfortunately, if the time comes and we do, we know how to handle it. We can, expedite things and move stuff along. Funny that you mentioned the vultures because I got personal messages from owners of these other softwares telling us to hang in there, great product, you guys, Or I had one where they said, oh, I'm the owner of this. Do you want to hop on a call? I experienced something like this. And it was more to figure out where we were at. I didn't get on a call with anybody, but it essentially seemed like they just wanted to figure out how deep we were into it so they could really just like essentially screenshot what I said or
Interesting.
and use it to their advantage. But vultures in the water for sure were in the group during that time, and we did use that time to clean up the group, clean up all the spammy people who were in there, whether pushing software for themselves, like another cleaning software, or VAs or people on Fiverr, like that. We allow those to be in there, but you just can't be constantly DMing people and blowing up everybody's spot. So one step at a time, we got to where we're at today. Couple last questions here. What's one feature that you love that you just couldn't live without in the software?
Probably not what people would say. I actually the private notes for both cleaners and clients.
Okay.
It's a place that allows our team to stay, on the same page without, right? Like it's in context notes. So I go to Paulette, I can see in context what somebody left as a note to how to deal with this person in the future. And we have a note format like, access, who the cleaners are, how we access their home, little things like there's specific prompts, which is probably not what probably I'm sure most people would answer. But for us, it's really important for us. We have an internal rule that we don't want the clients to feel the difference between team member A, B, or C. And so if you're a client talking to us via text, you shouldn't know the difference between anybody. And so the way we do that is, we train on consistent communication systems and what we're saying, but also too, like being on the same page. So if you told me something, naturally my instinct should be, if you're a client and you say, hey, we just got a puppy. Oh, you're someone with pets now. I got to go in your profile and update that. This person has a pet. That way, in the future, somebody knows, even that they know that the client has a pet, and they deal with them as such. But I would probably say the private notes is the most underrated, in my opinion, feature of the tool. Although you guys do a lot of things amazingly, there's all the things too. I use heavily the Twilly reminders, amazing, and I've shared a video on BK for folks who says when people reply they don't get it. I show them there's a video there on how to do it. So if anybody just watch that video, tell them how you can receive that reply and then reply back. But no, I use a good portion of the features. I think the only thing I don't use as much would be the marketing side of things because I've been in marketing for so long. I already had other tools that I've learned a long time ago.
And you're
I just
used to it. Yeah. Flip side, one
Mhm.
thing that you would like to see in the software that we don't currently have.
One thing I'd like to see in the software. I'm pretty sure everybody will probably say mobile app for the us, which there are moments right now. I have found solutions for it because now my booking is pushed to a different tool like Airtable, which is I go there. They don't have I guess they have an app, but it's not like an app. It's just a regular, the same experience but mobile friendly. I go there, or sometimes I go to my BK on the browser. So there are solutions. It's not the end of the world, but I definitely would have loved an app on mobile. I think just because oftentimes you get a text message like, oh, wait, I got to clarify before I respond. What's the quickest way to get to the information that I need to get to? Right. So I would say that. I mean, bugs exist. So there's not much to be said because bugs are most likely in the roadmap of being fixed anyway. So
Sure.
it's not anything I think worth mentioning. So I'd probably say mobile app if I had to give an answer.
Okay. And final question off the cuff. What advice are you giving your 10-year-old self from all the experiences you have now?
Hmm.
Business or non, anything?
This is what I would say. If I can go back to me being 10, like go back to 10, like those movies where like you see your old self and you could watch it happen. I don't think I'll say anything to him. And the reason is because the advice I would give is the same advice that I grew to learn. But I only grew to learn it because I went through it and grew to, figure out that advice. And that advice was like you're cool how you are. Like, the things about you that makes you weird and unique were the things that became great about you in the future. The words wouldn't do anything. I think you have to go through the things to realize like, oh, I've been cool this whole time. So I think if I had a chance to say something to my younger self, I wouldn't. I would just let I was gonna say let him or her, but obviously it's me. Let him let I'll just let him live through life and go through it. I mean, a lot of stuff are coming. For 10, you're moving to America. You're not gonna speak the language everybody gonna speak. You're gonna be bullied by girls, by guys. People gonna make fun of your accent. You're gonna make fun of your hair. You're gonna make fun of your skin color. 14, you're gonna lose your mom, who was your best friend because you didn't grow up with your dad. And you're gonna start writing poetry to help you feel better. Life is gonna life. Like the end product of that is a beautiful thing that I wouldn't even want to take that experience away from you by telling you what's coming. That's my
You're
answer.
the you're the first person that that's exactly. I would do the same. Just watch. As much as there's hardships that you go through, like you said, life is life. To become the person you are today, if you're happy and you're pleased with the good, kind person that you are, there's no need. You're you're gonna change potentially, like Back to the Future movies. You
Yeah,
do one thing, you say
yeah,
one,
yeah,
you're gonna change the course of everything. So I would essentially the same. Just
yeah,
just watch and
yeah.
maybe just fly on the wall, sit in that moment wherever I was brought to, and just be able to experience and relive that moment again as essentially an adult.
Yeah. Knowing obviously that everything gets better. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jacques, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your story, your business with the cleaning service and everything else. And, letting us dive into your family life. And it's just truly been a pleasure. And I've learned so much. And I thank you once again.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
This is fun.
And when in a couple months, shoot me a message when you hit that 50K, because I'm gonna want to hear it in the slow season for sure if you do.
Okay.
Um,
Say less.
all right. And for everybody watching, if you have any questions, I know that Jacques is always open to answering. So join the community group if you're not in it. Shoot him a message on one of his videos or comment on one of his videos. Shoot him a message. He's gonna be, when he has the time, busy man, but when he does, he'll be happy to reach out and help you out, because he does with so many others as well.
Yeah.
And
For
thank
sure.
you for another episode of the Qualified Podcast. We'll see you guys next time.